Now I've already got a video up on the chopping ability of the cold Steel Magnum Kukri Machete with the edge as boxed, horrible, it went blunt immediately. With the edge as sharpened, horrible, still went blunt immediately because the edge is overheated by cold steel when they ground it. Now I'm going to do some work to show the increase in performance by applying a primary grind on the blade and reducing the edge thickness dramatically. So this will increase the penetration of the blade significantly, but it radically improves ease of sharpening because now I only have to sharpen this little tiny secondary bevel down here. But more importantly, it'll make the blade more fluid in the wood. Before, it only had one very abrupt edge bevel and then it went to the primary flats, which are horrible, they stick. Now it has a secondary edge bevel which cuts and opens up the wood. It has a primary grind which provides relief, which should stop the blade from sticking, and of course then it has the flats. So let's have a look. Now, on this class of wood, you can see the Fiskar still retains the advantage in terms of fluidity because that nice big wide taper to the grind means that it will not stick even in wood like this, and it's much easier to cut through. But in terms of raw penetration, if anything, I'd have to still give it to the Magnum Kukri Machete. But it's hard to tell because both blades are cutting through somewhere between 3 and 5 hits. So even one hit either way is a difference of about 25 to 35%. So there's no way to get a decent estimate of how the blades actually cut when you're doing that low a number of chops. But if you look at the earlier videos, when this didn't have a primary grind, you could see how hard it was to leverage it out, and I was having to work it back and forth, back and forth. Now I can just draw it out. It's nowhere near the X, but it's way more fluid than it was originally. A couple more. This is a bit bigger, so it's a bit more problematic for the blade. Have a look at it with the axe. Now, this is only OSB strand board. It's very easy to cut up, so and you can see one of the main issues with the machete is because it doesn't actually separate the wood, because it actually doesn't have a primary grind, the same sort of taper as the axe, it'll actually leave the wood in the cut where the axe will actually knock it out. Get out. And if I don't actually make the cuts meet, nothing will happen. Like I'm going to cut this one intentionally a bit farther over here. Now, because my cuts didn't meet down here at the bottom, that chip won't clear at all. Get out. Now let's actually have a look at some sensible wood. And again, as noted before on some of the other videos, the Fiskars will power through these spruce 2x4 between 10 to 15 hits, depending on how dense the wood is, because it changes from piece to piece. It's very fluid, doesn't get stuck, you can work very fast. All this wood is frozen. It's actually about -3 or 4 now, so that's why a lot of the wood is breaking as well. And you can see it's covered in snow and ice. Now you should be able to see now that the Kukri is getting better penetration on the wood. The performance is still fairly close. You'd need to check a fair amount of cuts in order to see it. But the primary grind on this is allowing it to pull ahead of the Fiskar's hatchet. And on this type of wood, it's still very fluid. Like, it's not sticking. Yes, I might have to wedge it out on occasion. But once a cut gets started, it moves the V very efficiently.